Greetings, fellow seekers of truth and unravelers of ancient enigmas. Welcome to Ancient Relics Keeper, where history's most profound secrets await your keen discovery. Julia Child, the woman famous for her French cooking recipes on television, once led a life that was entirely different. She was a spy long before she ever picked up a skillet in front of a camera. Julia served in the intelligence agency that would later become the CIA during World War II. And it was there that she came up with something incredibly useful: an anti-shark formula. The formula was designed to be applied to life vests and underwater explosives, helping American soldiers survive at sea without being attacked by sharks, and ensuring that bombs wouldn't detonate prematurely because of curious sea creatures. Born in the year 1912 in California, Julia grew up in an upper-class family and received a full education. After college, she worked as a secretary in New York, then volunteered with the Red Cross when the war broke out. Thanks to her exceptional organizational skills, Julia was assigned to the Emergency Sea Rescue Equipment Division. And it was here that she invented the anti-shark formula, a creation that saved not only soldiers' lives, but critical military gear as well. Even to this day, Julia's formula is still used by space agencies. Whenever a rocket lands in the ocean, the devices on board remain protected from the curiosity of sharks. According to statistics, approximately 57% of Americans believe in the existence of extraterrestrial beings. Former President Jimmy Carter once publicly stated that he had witnessed an unidentified flying object. And so did Ronald Reagan. But is the United States government hiding the truth about aliens? What do they really know about flying saucers that they refuse to disclose? The UFO phenomenon only became a serious topic of discussion after the year 1947, at the dawn of the Cold War. In the late 1940s, the first modern reports of strange flying objects began to pour in. The most famous incident occurred on June 24, 1947 in the United States. Kenneth Arnold, a private pilot and well-respected businessman, reported seeing 9 flying discs near Mount Rainier in Washington. He estimated that they were moving at speeds over 1,000 mph. Events like this created confusion within the government. The number of UFO sightings was so high that the military had to create special departments just to handle the situation. In 1948, the U.S. Air Force launched Project Saucer to collect data. By 1952, they had moved on to Project Blue Book, which continued into the 1960s. However, neither project uncovered anything definitive. In 1952, CIA officials suggested that people who had seen UFOs were experiencing a kind of midsummer madness, a form of collective psychological disturbance. In a report from the 1950s, the agency acknowledged a very small possibility that these might be interplanetary aircraft. But in the end, nothing was ever officially recognized. To this day, the UFO issue remains unresolved. Videos of flying saucers are everywhere on the internet. Although the CIA is believed to still be quietly monitoring the situation, no government has ever openly admitted to knowing anything concrete about extraterrestrials. Aliens are one thing, but unidentified flying objects are another. In 1984, a series of leaked documents claimed that President Truman had secretly established a committee in 1947 to recover the wreckage of an alien spacecraft from the Roswell incident. But are these documents real? Or was Roswell just a fallen weather balloon? In Spain, it was once widely believed that ancient megalithic stone structures were connected to witchcraft. Everything mysterious or supernatural was attributed to those old stone walls. In the Basque Country, every year in mid-August, locals celebrate an ancient festival called Aar, which was once held inside prehistoric dolmens, though today the event has moved to village squares. One of the dolmens that once hosted the Aar celebration is Chabadia, also known as the Witch's Hut. According to legend, during the time of the Spanish Inquisition, a group of witches lived inside this dolmen before being captured, taken back to the village, and burned at the stake. Throughout the European witch hunting era, people feared the megalithic stones hidden in the forest edges near their villages. Villagers from Alad say the dolmen outside their town emits an enchanting melody with no singer in sight, fueling stories of a witch living inside, who lures passers-by with her voice like a siren from the sea. Anyone who wanders too close, they say, turns to stone, forever becoming part of the ancient structure. Across the Iberian Peninsula lie countless prehistoric sites, and wherever they stand, they have long instilled fear in Christian communities. In Portugal, a dolmen in Favia was once converted into a chapel named San Eunice, an ancient tomb turned into a tiny church. What the Christians didn't destroy, they transformed into places of worship. They didn't just convert people, they baptized the very stones. In the year 1871, Edward Bulworth Lytton, an English politician and novelist, published a book titled Vril, The Power of the Coming Race. That book would go on to have a strange and far-reaching influence that exceeded anything the author ever imagined. In the story, the main character, an American, stumbles upon an underground race of beings. They are descendants of the Aryan people, ancient, mysterious, and free of war and hatred. They live in a utopian society and wield a magical force called Vril. Vril isn't just energy. It is the source of their ability to control both matter and the human mind. The subterranean Aryans live in perfect peace, convinced that their racial purity is a divine inheritance. This novel would later inspire some of the bizarre ideological theories embraced by the Nazis. The Vril Society, a semi-official occult group, developed the belief that true Aryans possessed supernatural powers and could tap into the Vril energy to dominate the world. And then, in a twist stranger than fiction, these once imaginary concepts became embedded in the ideology of one of the most brutal regimes of the 20th century. In early 2019, archaeologists working in a largely unexplored region of the Western Sahara Desert uncovered hundreds of ancient stone structures in a wide range of shapes and sizes. To this day, no one knows who built them, when they were constructed, or why they were created. Some of the structures are crescent-shaped, while others form perfect circles. There are long straight lines of stones interspersed with rectangular layouts. In many cases, the structures are nothing more than piles of rocks. One massive complex stretches nearly 800 meters and combines straight lines, circles, mounds, and what appears to be a large foundation. This region remains under investigation, largely due to decades of conflict between Morocco and the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, which continued until the year 1991. As a result, what has been discovered so far barely scratches the surface of the region's ancient past. While scientists are still unsure of the structure's exact purposes or origins, many believe that a significant number of them were burial sites dating back approximately 1,500 years. Evidence also suggests that the Western Sahara, now dry and desolate, was once a lush and green land teeming with plant and animal life. Unfortunately, any effort to fully decode the history and purpose of these structures will take time. Ongoing security issues in the region continue to disrupt archaeological excavations. In 2018, a Chinese researcher named Zhang Peng claimed to have witnessed a bizarre phenomenon during an expedition near Antarctica. While collecting core samples at a lake roughly 500 m from the South Pole, he and his team saw an unidentified flying object rise from the water's surface. Zhang reported that the object emitted an extremely powerful blue light before vanishing into the sky. The light was so intense that even closing one's eyes did nothing to block it out. And the other researchers confirmed experiencing the same thing. They also noted that the UFO made no sound, but all of them felt a ringing in their ears. This case is especially notable because it shares many details with previously recorded UFO reports. Flying objects often appear from oceans or deep lakes. Some researchers believe that extraterrestrial civilizations may be living at the bottom of the sea, far beyond the reach of humanity. And if anyone wanted to build a truly secret underwater base, Antarctica would be the most ideal place to do so. There is no definitive proof for this theory, but it continues to fascinate many. There are other cases that have been documented as well. In 1982, a group of Russian Navy divers claimed to have encountered strange humanoid creatures in Lake Ball. These beings stood about 10 foot tall, wore silvery suits, and moved at incredible speeds. When the divers attempted to capture one of them, 3 members of the team lost their lives. Whether or not these entities are extraterrestrial, there remain inexplicable mysteries hidden in Earth's deep lakes. In central India, an archaeological discovery has long puzzled scholars. The Heliodorus pillar. The pillar itself bears the names of Hindu gods, which is not unusual. What is strange is the name Heliodorus, an ancient Greek diplomat. The pillar was found in 1877 by Alexander Cunningham, a British archaeologist. At that time, locals were using it for animal sacrifice rituals and had covered it in a thick layer of red powder. Though it looked unsightly on the outside, Alexander quickly recognized the object's significance. It wasn't until 1910 that a research team cleaned off the red powder and discovered Brahmascript along with the name Heliodorus, who had been a Greek ambassador in the 2nd century B.C. Subsequent excavations revealed that this was once a vast megalithic temple complex, which had been devastated by catastrophic floods over the course of 2,000 years. The discovery of the pillar was a sensation at the beginning of the 20th century. As it suggested, Heliodorus may have been the first Westerner to convert to Hinduism, possibly even bringing that faith back to his homeland in Greece. It also stands as evidence of a religious tradition more than 2,000 years old. One that once thrived here and now survives as a solitary stone pillar standing alone in the sun and wind. Nowhere else in the world is there a site quite like the isolated ruins of Namdal. This ancient city has been abandoned for centuries. Located within a lagoon near the island of Pompeii in Micronesia, in the vast Pacific Ocean. Virtually unreachable. 1,000 years ago, it was the seat of power and ritual for the Sodalur dynasty. The ancients built more than 100 artificial islands spread across nearly 200 acres of coral reef. Nanmadal is the only ancient city in the world constructed atop a coral reef. About 1,000 people once lived here in primitive houses made from basalt and coral stone. Construction continued from about 1100 until as late as the 17th century with an estimated 1,650,000 tons of material transported into the lagoon. According to archaeologist Rufino Mauricio, in order to build Nanmadal, the people of Pompeii had to transport nearly 2,000 tons of basalt every year for 400 years straight. The quarries lay over 25 miles away. How they managed to move and stack such massive stones across the sea remains unexplained. The city included residential quarters, tombs, ritual spaces, and many other structures. Eventually the Sodalur dynasty was overthrown by the hero Isoko, and the land was divided into 3 chiefdoms called Nanoi, a system that still survives today. However, Namdal was abandoned in the 19th century and has never been inhabited since. Among the most ruthless figures of Nazi Germany, Heinrich Himmler was the mastermind behind the Ananabi Project, a plan to prove that Germans were the true descendants of the Norse gods. Along with other high-ranking party members, Himmler believed the so-called Aryan race originated from the Aesir gods of Norse mythology. The Ananabi Project was launched to find undeniable archaeological evidence for this theory. In 1935, Himmler teamed up with scholar Hermann Wirth, who had an intense fascination with the lost civilization of Atlantis. Wirth believed that the Norse gods were in fact survivors from Atlantis who had migrated to Europe after a great cataclysm, and thus became the ancestors of modern Germans. Driven by this belief, Himmler poured millions of dollars into excavating ancient ruins, hoping to uncover divine relics from the age of Atlantis. Despite staging many fake excavations and producing fabricated research, The Nazis never found the evidence they desired. Lake Vasto is one of the largest subglacial lakes in the world, buried under more than 2 miles of Antarctic ice. For millions of years, it has remained completely isolated from the outside world. The lake water has never been touched by sunlight and is crushed beneath the enormous weight of the ice above. In the 1990s, Russian scientists began drilling through the ice to reach the lake. They believed it might contain unknown forms of microbial life organisms that had evolved in total isolation. However, the drilling provoked much controversy. Some scientists worried that the drilling equipment would contaminate the pristine ecosystem beneath. Others feared that something far stranger might be lurking within the depths. When the drill finally broke through to the water in 2012, the Russian team claimed to have discovered a strange bacterium never before seen on Earth. Yet, the international scientific community quickly raised suspicions that the sample could have been contaminated by the drilling equipment. By 2015, a Russian scientist named Andrei Kapitsa asserted that a massive metallic object of entirely artificial origin lay beneath the ice of Lake Vasto. He claimed sonar data revealed a large symmetrical structure deep below. That report sparked a wave of speculation. Perhaps Lake Vasto conceals the ruins of an ancient civilization, or even a secret Nazi base. The mystery deepened when the Russian research team lost contact for a time, leading to rumors that they had discovered something too shocking to reveal. To this day, the world still does not know what lies beneath the waters of Lake Vasto. It remains one of the most mysterious and remote places on the planet. After Hurricane Ian swept through the state of Florida, a strange and massive object was revealed beneath a thick layer of sand near Frank Rendan Park, in the Daytona Beach Shores area. Then when Hurricane Nicole passed through, even more of the structure came into view. No one could identify exactly what it was. From the outside, it looked like the shattered hull of an ancient ship, but others claimed it resembled the fossilized spine of a giant dinosaur. This level of coastal erosion was unprecedented, and it was precisely what stripped away the sand that had hidden the wooden structure, which measured more than 100 feet in length. Even so, weeks passed and archaeologists were still working to excavate the object from the sand, a task far more difficult than anyone had expected. Some believed it might be the remains of a ship, but as of now, no one can say for sure. It's well known that the Nazis once pursued a number of bizarre ideologies. Some of the Nazi leadership believed they were descendants of ancient Norse gods. Rumors circulated that they had experimented with anti-gravity technology. The list of strange ideas goes on and on. Among them is a conspiracy theory that the Nazis once tried to create zombies by resurrecting the dead. As outrageous as it sounds, there's truth to the fact that they had entire research teams devoted to supernatural phenomena. They hunted for religious relics such as the crown of thorns worn by Jesus. They searched for gateways to mythical lands. Some groups even tried to turn German soldiers into warriors with telepathic abilities. It may sound insane, but during the Cold War, the CIA conducted similar experiments. Even more horrifying were the medical experiments carried out in the concentration camps. Prisoners were used as human test subjects frozen to death, revived under extreme conditions, and pushed to their physical limits to see how far the human body could be pushed before organs began to fail. The specific details of those experiments remain a mystery. But one thing is clear. They were cruel, inhumane, and often ended in death. With all the horrifying and secretive experiments that took place in the shadows, can we truly rule out the possibility that they once attempted to bring the dead back to life? Buried deep within Egypt's vast desert lies an underground structure that defies every known theory. This site is not near any of the country's famous pyramids, not even the Great Pyramid, with its endless mysteries of engineering and purpose. But instead, it's an enigma of its own, known by few. Far from the Golden Dunes, this mystery rests in the ancient city of Abydos, one of the oldest cities in Egypt and perhaps one of the oldest on Earth. Abydos was once a hub of temples, royal tombs, and mystical cults. Many early pharaohs were buried deep beneath the city in underground chambers. Even today, large temples remain hidden beneath modern buildings constructed atop the ancient sand. Because it has been buried under layers of newer history, Abydos poses a unique challenge for archaeologists. They are forced to uncover its secrets by digging deep into the earth. One of the strangest discoveries here is the Osirian, a temple completely unlike any other structure from ancient Egypt. From its very construction, the Osirian was designed to be underground, carved directly into the bedrock of Abydos. And it bears almost no resemblance to the ornamented, colorfully adorned temples found elsewhere. The structure is massive and imposing, featuring a central hall surrounded by a moat and supported by colossal columns. Each pillar was carved from a single block of red granite. To build the Osirian, ancient workers had to transport materials from remote corners of the Egyptian empire. Some of the stones weighed more than 200,000 lb. The sheer size and scale of this construction surpassed anything else found in Abydos. And then there's the most puzzling part: the complete absence of inscriptions or artwork. While other Egyptian monuments are covered with hieroglyphs and murals, the Osirian's walls are blank. No statues have ever been found. Not a single carving exists to explain its purpose. Its vast dimensions and total lack of decoration have led many to believe the Oyan was never meant to be a traditional temple. Perhaps it was built for something entirely different. But no one knows what. Some even theorize that the Osirian predates Egyptian civilization itself, that it was constructed long before the time of the pharaohs. Others suggest it is a remnant from a civilization that existed before the Great Flood mentioned in the Bible. And a few have speculated that it may be linked to the legendary city of Atlantis. But the story of Atlantis is one for the next chapter. Hidden within a rocky outcrop at what feels like the end of the Greek world, lies a mystery that has endured since the 16th century B.C. More than 3.5 millennia ago. It centers on a goddess, a cave, and a passage into the underworld. At the edge of the Greek mainland sits the city of Eleusis, the final point on the legendary road that once connected Athens to Eleusis in ancient times. It was called the Sacred Way. 600 years ago, Eleusis was one of the most important religious centers in the ancient world. Thousands of pilgrims traveled great distances to attend its sacred festivals. Foremost among them was the Eleusinian Mysteries, not to be confused with the Orphic rites. Every September, thousands of pagans gathered by the shores of Eleusis to pray to the goddess Deer for a bountiful harvest. In Greek mythology, Dido is the goddess of agriculture. Legend says her daughter Phane was kidnapped by Hades, the lord of the underworld. Emerging from a cave near Eleusis, Hades came to the surface, seized Phane, and forced her to become his queen. In grief, or perhaps in vengeance, Deer brought drought and famine upon the land. Chaos and starvation followed. After much debate, Zeus ordered Hades to return Phane, but only under one condition. She must spend 6 months of each year with him in the underworld. Each time Prophene returned to the surface, Deer caused the world to bloom once again, ushering in spring. And when she descended back to Hades, the earth withered and autumn began. The mystery lies in a real cave near the sacred site of Eleusis, one that many believe is the very passage Hades and Phane used. It is called the Plutonian Cave of Eleusis. Nowhere else in Greece comes closer to the realm of the dead. The entrance rests atop a stone staircase carved into the cliffside. Inside the cave, strange vegetation grows from cracks in the rock. Places like this raise an unsettling question. What if the myths of gods were more than just stories? For centuries, scholars have speculated that Atlantis may lie somewhere in Spain. And now that theory might finally be proven true. The lost city of legend has been identified in a marshland on the southern coast of Spain. If this place isn't Atlantis, then it is undoubtedly a forgotten city the world has never known. Ancient Greek records long suggested the sunken city was somewhere in southern Spain. Some have claimed that Atlantis was in the Atlantic Ocean, floated south to Antarctica, and froze in place. Others say it was the Azores or somewhere in Portugal, near Florida, or in the Caribbean. Theories are endless, but the one with the most support has always pointed to Spain, especially for those who believe in the Greek texts where the Atlantis legend first appeared. According to Plato, Atlantis was a massive island located near the Pillars of Hercules, a real-world location at the Strait of Gibraltar, where the Mediterranean Sea meets the Atlantic Ocean and Morocco stretches towards southern Spain. Plato also claimed that Atlantis had a powerful military and a civilization far more advanced than its neighbors, one that once ruled over North Africa and much of Western Europe. But the city grew arrogant, defied the gods, and was punished. In a single cataclysmic flood, Atlantis was swallowed by the sea and erased from history. The truth of Atlantis has been debated for more than 2,000 years. Many scholars insist it was pure fiction after all. Plato was a writer and storytelling was his craft. Yet others are convinced Atlantis was real, destroyed by a catastrophic deluge. Even stranger theories like those from Graham Hancock suggest that survivors from Atlantis spread across the globe, teaching primitive tribes the secrets of agriculture and technology. Some believe the Atlanteans were part alien, and that this explains their superior knowledge. What excites people most is what has recently been uncovered in the Spanish marshlands. In Doñana National Park, archaeologists have been excavating in secret for more than a decade. In 2011, the area appeared in a National Geographic documentary titled Finding Atlantis, since many had long suspected the region held ancient secrets. Now, a team of researchers from the United Kingdom has identified ruins buried beneath the muddy ground, which they believe may be the actual city of Atlantis. Bruce Blackburn, director of Merlin Burrows, stated that he and his team used historical texts and satellite data to locate the archaeological sites. The same satellites that provide images for Google Earth were used to scan every inch of the park. They discovered large circles imprinted into the soil, possible foundations for ancient towers. The team also found the remains of a temple, the ruins of a seawall, and evidence that the entire area was once devastated by a massive tsunami. All of these discoveries strongly suggest the presence of Atlantis. But not everyone is convinced. Some experts argue that the ruins found by the British team belong to an entirely different culture. Still, the ruins are real, and that's enough to ignite controversy. Merlin Burrows collected building samples from the site, sent them to a laboratory in Italy for analysis, and discovered that the material was man-made concrete dating back more than 12,000 years. According to that estimate, the ruins in Spain are even older than Göbekli. If these are not the remains of the walls, temples, and towers of Atlantis, then whose are they? The black sun is a mysterious symbol that originated in Germany during the Nazi era, and has since become widely used by extremist groups such as neo-Nazis. Its design is fairly simple. 12 runic symbols arranged in a circle, each one resembling a lightning bolt radiating from a black disk at the center. The image strongly recalls the emblem of the SS, the infamous security force of Nazi Germany. The black sun first appeared at Welsburg Castle, and soon began spreading across Hitler's Germany. Yet, curiously, no one truly knows the original purpose of this symbol. Many theories suggest it has ties to the occult. Others believe the black sun was intended as a substitute for the swastika, though it never achieved the same level of popularity. To this day, its true origins remain a mystery. What is known is that since the war, it has been appropriated by extremist organizations, hate groups, and even satanic cults in the United States who use it as a symbol of hatred and dark energy. Deep within the wilds of Siberia, far from any major roads, archaeologists discovered a structure from the Ice Age built entirely from bones. This is one of the most enigmatic ancient constructions ever found. A massive temple-like edifice made from more than 60 woolly mammoth skeletons dating back 25,000 000 years in age when humans had yet to invent houses. Perhaps building a home would have been more practical. But these ancient ancestors chose to do something different. According to archaeologist Alexander Pryor, completing this 12 m wide structure required extraordinary effort from prehistoric people. Yet, no one knows its true purpose. Inside, traces of ancient fires remain, possibly used for cooking, food preservation, or ritual ceremonies. One thing is certain. Nothing like it has ever been found on the Siberian steppe. Over 20,000 years before Stonehenge was built, our hunter-gatherer forebears erected a megalithic monument from mammoth bones for reasons history has yet to explain. In 1901, a Norwegian whaling ship named Antarctic stumbled upon something strange while sailing along the coast of Graham Land in Antarctica. The crew spotted stone ruins scattered across the icy shore walls, steps, and foundations that appeared to be the remnants of a settlement. The captain recorded his observations in the ship's log and continued on his way. But those ruins were never seen again. Perhaps they were buried by snow, swallowed by ice, or simply vanished from the map in some unknown way. Since then, numerous theories have emerged. Some believe the ruins were the last traces of a forgotten colony. Others claim the site was once home to an ancient civilization that migrated south during a period lost to history long before the continent was swallowed by ice. Still others insist it was a secret Nazi outpost established during World War II and later destroyed or abandoned. There are even theories suggesting the ruins belonged to a breakaway civilization, a community that lived in isolation beneath the ice for centuries. No photographs exist, and no scientific expedition has ever confirmed the location of these ruins. All that remains are the Norwegian sailors' log entries and decades of speculation. If a forgotten colony truly exists in Antarctica, humanity may never find it. The ice is too thick, the terrain too harsh, and the conditions so extreme that only a handful of people have ever ventured into those remote regions. Whatever secrets lie buried beneath the snow may remain forever undisturbed. Deep inside a cave in France, the Neanderthals constructed the first man-made structures in history. Very little is known about Neanderthal behavior for generations. They were dismissed as primitive cavemen. But the discovery in Brunel Cave proved they were far more intelligent than once believed. 176,000 years ago, Neanderthals ventured deep into the darkness of Brunkiel, a remote underground world. There they arranged broken stalagmites into strange circles, an act unprecedented in the archaeological record. Yet exactly what these structures were meant to be remains a mystery. All that scientists know is that they broke the stalagmites, carried them far into the cave, and arranged them into geometric patterns. Evidence of burnt stone shows they lit fires atop the structures. The purpose may have been ritual, or perhaps simply decoration. No one can say for sure. Even more astonishing, the cave entrance is almost inaccessible. Only the bravest explorers can descend nearly 100 feet straight down into pitch darkness. How ancient people hauled building materials into such a place remains an unsolved mystery. Amid the English countryside, far from any large town, stands the Roman fort of Hardknott, built around the year 120 CE. It served as a garrison for Roman soldiers from Dalmatia, modern-day Croatia. Yet, after just 10 years, the fort was abandoned, later repurposed as a dwelling by locals for another 2 centuries before falling into obscurity once more. The fort sits at an elevation of nearly 800 feet near the summit of Hardknott Pass, a completely isolated position that allowed Roman troops to control movement through the mountain pass. This remoteness gives the site exceptional archaeological value. Historians agree that Hardknott was one of the most far-flung outposts of the Roman Empire in Britain. The soldiers stationed here must have felt as if they had been exiled to the very edge of the world. In Israel, scientists have uncovered a cache of fossilized shark teeth, in a place no one would have ever expected. These ancient teeth were found at the City of David, a mysterious archaeological site in Jerusalem that has existed for more than 200 years. The site is located nearly 100 m from the closest known location where fossilized shark teeth can be found. Scientists still aren't certain how the teeth ended up there, but they do have a few reasonable theories. One hypothesis is that someone living in the city of David may have been a fossil collector. Much like how people today collect gemstones, crystals, seashells, or ancient relics. That individual could have traveled toward the coast to dig up shark teeth that date back more than 80 million years. Dr. Thomas Tutkin, who led the research team, noted that the teeth were not in their original context. They had been relocated, indicating they once held great value to someone. The teeth were found beneath a layer of debris that once formed the basement of a house, now part of the Palestinian village of Silwan. They were mixed in with discarded fish bones and broken pottery shards. A genuine mystery. The teeth belonged to shark species from the late Cretaceous period, creatures that went extinct 66 million years ago. They were almost certainly excavated intentionally from the Negev Desert, which means both their origin and species are well documented. The only thing no one can explain is how they ended up in Jerusalem. On the island nation of Malta, there is a cave known as the Bone Cave, once home to ancient humans more than 12,000 years ago, long before the pyramids or Stonehenge ever existed. During the Ice Age, Malta was connected to Sicily by land. But when the ice melted and sea levels rose, Malta became an isolated island. Before that happened, early European settlers had made their way to the region, taking refuge in its caves. And they remained even as the rising water slowly claimed the surrounding land. However, what has puzzled scientists isn't just the presence of early humans, but the other creatures found within the cave. Alongside human remains, archaeologists discovered the bones of miniature animals, dwarf elephants, pygmy hippos, tiny wolves, small bears, and deer and foxes that were unnaturally small. No one can say for certain why Malta's animal life became so diminished. The leading theory suggests that after Malta became isolated, food supplies dropped significantly while predators disappeared. Over time, the long-lasting lack of resources forced the animals to adapt and shrink in size to survive. Still, that remains an unconfirmed hypothesis. In South Africa, within ancient rock layers estimated to be up to 3 billion years old, researchers have discovered small spherical objects. What makes them special is that they are not only perfectly round, but also smooth and polished as if they had passed through some sort of mechanical grinder. Today, they're known as the Klerksdorp spheres. From the moment they were discovered, these objects have fascinated both scientists and conspiracy theorists. Some believe they're proof of alien visitors or a long-lost prehistoric civilization. But what is the truth behind these strange spheres? The Klerksdorp spheres are actually small metallic objects found inside pyite deposits. Many of them have grooves around their midsections, making them look like miniature bowling balls. Back in the 1980s, a number of people believed they were artifacts left behind by a technologically advanced civilization that predated human history. One museum curator even claimed that a sphere once rotated on its own inside a sealed glass case. A story shrouded in mystery. So, what's the truth? Could they be alien relics or evidence of an ancient superhuman race? Some pseudoscientists were quick to say the spheres couldn't have formed naturally, arguing that no natural process could produce such perfect objects inside rock that is billions of years old. Their claims caught the attention of geologist Bruce Cairns-Cross. In 2006, he launched an investigation, and the results, while fascinating, weren't as mysterious as many had hoped. Cairns-Cross explained that the spheres are naturally formed concretions, spherical or oval-shaped mineral clusters that differ from the surrounding rock. They form when mineral-rich water flows through stone, slowly hardening around a nucleus. The Klerk spheres developed inside Dominion Group rocks, volcanic in origin and later altered into clay-like material. Over millions of years, elements like iron, calcium, and others crystallized around tiny cores, forming solid spheres thanks to the consistent structure of the rock. If the water flow or surrounding material was uneven, the spheres would have ended up distorted. And those mysterious grooves. Karen Cross concluded that they are simply impressions left by the surrounding host rock, as the minerals formed layer by layer over long periods of time. As for the tail of the rotating sphere, R. Marks, the museum curator at Clerks, publicly denied the story. During a visit by journalists, he repositioned the sphere on a glass shelf and noted that it did shift slightly, but only due to its round shape and small vibrations from frequent micro-earthquakes caused by nearby gold mining. In the end, the mystery of the Clerks-Dorp spheres had nothing to do with aliens or the supernatural, just the incredible forces of geology acting over billions of years. Located in the southern Indian state of Telangana, Warangal Fort defies traditional expectations of an ancient fortress. Rather than a solid imposing structure, the remains of Warangal today are admired more for their elegance than for any military might. Of course, the fort once boasted 3 concentric circular ramparts surrounded by a moat which did play a role in defense. But the fort's design appears to have been less than impregnable as invading forces succeeded multiple times in conquering it throughout history. King Ganapati of the Kakesha dynasty began construction of Warangal Fort in the early 13th century, and his daughter Rudrami oversaw its completion in the year 1261. Given the fort's striking beauty and the fact that it was frequently defeated, some scholars have argued that it was built more as a display of opulence than a strategic stronghold. By the 16th century, the early rulers of the Kut Shahi dynasty had largely destroyed the fort, and today only ruins remain. Grand structures such as the Shiva temple once stood here now vanished without a trace. Some believe there were as many as 365 temples dedicated to Shiva within the complex. But this claim remains unproven. Still, Warangal Fort continues to draw visitors eager to admire the intricately carved stone motifs and decorative arches that have survived for centuries. A lasting testament to the artistic and architectural genius of the Kakesha dynasty. Hidden within the holiest day of the Jewish calendar may lie traces of an ancient Egyptian pharaoh, one that some believe may not have been entirely of this world. Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, is the most sacred of all Jewish observances. It falls 10 days after Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. On this day, Jewish people pray, repent, and ask God for forgiveness. In the Torah's book of Leviticus, Moses commanded the Israelites to observe this day by abstaining from work, fasting, and offering animal sacrifices at the tent of meeting. After the year 70 CE, when Roman forces destroyed the Second Temple in Jerusalem, Jewish worshippers ceased animal sacrifices and instead offered prayers. A subtle but revolutionary shift. However, some liberal scholars now suggest that Yom Kippur may not have originated in the 8th century B.C., as widely believed, but rather in Egypt 6 centuries earlier. One theory claims that Moses was actually Pharaoh Akhenaten, the controversial ruler of Egypt during the 14th century B.C. If true, this would cast doubt not only on the origin of Yom Kippur, but on the very foundations of Judaism itself. Another prominent belief in Judaism is that of the Book of Life, where God inscribes each person's name during Rosh Hashanah to decide their fate on Yom Kippur. Yet this idea may have been inspired by the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead, a collection of spells to help the deceased navigate the afterlife and achieve eternal life. During the New Kingdom period, the wealthy were often buried with a personalized copy of the Book of the Dead inscribed with their names and instructions for the journey through the underworld. In later Jewish belief, the concept was altered. Rather than everyone owning a copy, only God possessed the book, and he alone recorded the names. It's possible that a monumental cultural shift transformed the Egyptian Book of the Dead into the Jewish Book of Life. And it might all trace back to Akhenaten, whose birth name was Amun-hotep. He ruled around 1352 B.C. and was not well loved by his people. But could he truly have been Moses? That answer is still waiting to be uncovered. In Scotland, the Cocknose stone is an ancient treasure. a massive slab so heavy it cannot be moved, measuring nearly 40 feet long and 26 feet wide. Its entire surface is covered in mysterious prehistoric markings. In 1965, the stone was buried to prevent local residents from vandalizing it. More than 100 ancient symbols have been carved into its surface. Swirling lines, concentric circles, dots, and strange geometric patterns, all far beyond what the modern mind can easily comprehend. 60 years later, a team of scientists from the University of Glasgow excavated the stone and began a comprehensive study of this prehistoric monument. They confirmed that Cocknoe is one of the largest megalithic stones from the Bronze Age in Scotland. The team documented the stone's intricate surface using 3 cutting-edge methods: drone photography, high-resolution imaging, and laser scanning. They even recreated the Cocknoe stone as a 3D model, then reread the original to protect it from further damage. The leading theory among researchers now is that Cocknoe may be a 5,000-year-old star map. Archaeologist Ludovic Mlenman, who studied the site in 1937, believed that the stone is much more than a prehistoric work of art. He argued that the symbols carved on its surface are closely tied to astronomy, used to mark the movement of the sun and moon, to predict eclipses, and to track events in the sky. Ask anyone in Scotland and they'll tell you Cocknoe is a truly special place. For many, it's one more destination on the ever-growing list of wonders to visit in Scotland. Researchers have deciphered an ancient Egyptian book of magic, once thought to have kept its secrets buried forever. The translation reveals that this book has existed for more than 13 centuries and is filled with supernatural power. It contains every kind of spell from making someone fall in love to driving away evil spirits. Did magic ever really exist in this world? From a scientific perspective, the answer may seem simple, but the reality is much less clear. There must be some reason why people have believed in magic for thousands of years. This book, titled The Handbook of Ritual Power, preserves knowledge that real sorcerers once used in ceremonial rituals. For example, it describes how to treat a disease known as black jaundice, a genuine bacterial infection that can still be fatal today. Ancient people did not just chant spells. They also treated real illnesses. So, where is the line between medicine and magic? According to Malcolm Cho of Macquarie University in Australia, the book is made of leather bound into a 20-page codex. At the front are incantations, drawings, and keywords needed for ritual magic. Malcolm adds that as you read further, the book reveals even more spells. For instance, to dominate someone, all you need to do is hammer 2 nails into either side of their doorway, one on the right, one on the left, and the ritual is complete. There are also instructions for achieving business success or banishing strange spirits from the body. How useful is that? Researchers believe the Codex was written in the 7th century by a member of the Sethian sect, an extremely mysterious branch of Christian history named for Seth, the 3rd son of Adam and Eve. Other than that, almost nothing is known about them. The mainstream church considered the Sethians heretics and by the 7th century had wiped them out through violence or forced them into exile. Clearly, the Sethians once worshipped gods that nobody recognizes today. As scientists decoded the Egyptian spell book, they found a passage referring to a deity named Baki, the Great One, the Trustworthy, master of the 49 kinds of serpents. This is utterly foreign to all previous knowledge of ancient religion. No one knows what the 40 means, what 9 kinds of serpents refers to, or who Baki truly was. Ancient spell books are always mysterious, but this one surpasses all boundaries of the bizarre. No one even knows where it was discovered since there are no records before 1981. It's believed to have come from Upper Egypt near the ancient city of Ashmanine, and is currently housed in the Museum of Ancient Cultures in Sydney. Part Vanquit. Neil deGrasse Tyson's perspective on UAPs. In a recent interview on the show, Who's Talking to Chris Wallace, astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson addressed the rising wave of public interest in unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs. He reaffirmed his long-held position. As a scientist, he is always open to the possibility of extraterrestrial life. But only hard, verifiable evidence can change his conclusions. When asked directly whether he believes life exists elsewhere in the universe, Tyson said it would actually be surprising if it did not. He bases this reasoning on 3 key points. The basic chemical ingredients for life on Earth are found throughout the universe. Life appeared very quickly on Earth once conditions allowed. The enormous number of planets discovered orbiting other stars makes the existence of life-bearing worlds statistically very likely. However, when it comes to the question of whether advanced aliens have ever visited Earth, Tyson is much more skeptical. He notes that the so-called evidence usually consists of blurry videos or photographs, often showing monochrome tic-tac-shaped objects captured in restricted airspace. For him, such material is nowhere near convincing for a serious scientist. Tyson compares these vague images to the astonishingly sharp photos taken by the James Webb Space Telescope, which operates 1 million miles from Earth and can capture galaxies at the very edge of the observable universe. He argues that if alien spacecraft really were present in Earth's atmosphere, the scientific community should be able to capture equally clear images, while admitting that advanced technology could potentially hide or disguise its presence. Tyson insists that without clear, irrefutable proof, all speculation remains just that, speculation. For him, science demands extraordinary evidence for extraordinary claims, and until such evidence appears, he remains unconvinced that Earth has ever been visited by intelligence from beyond our solar system, and the allegation of a secret UFO retrieval program. David Grouch, a decorated former U.S. Air Force officer and intelligence official, has recently ignited one of the most heated debates in modern UFO history. His claims, both sensational and highly controversial, suggest the existence of a decadecade-long top-secret program designed to recover and reverse-engineer technology from non-human aerial vehicles. Grouch maintains that this program has operated across generations, researching unidentified aerial phenomena far beyond any military research ever made public. According to him, certain branches of the government have covertly redirected funds to maintain this cover, keeping all activities out of reach of Congress and the general public. The gravity of these revelations reached its peak when Grouch took an oath and testified before a congressional committee. He stated that the United States not only possesses vehicles of non-human origin, but has also encountered biological specimens associated with them. If true, such claims could fundamentally alter humanity's understanding of its place in the cosmos. However, almost immediately after his hearing, efforts to discredit Grouch began to surface. Several articles openly probed his personal struggles, including post-traumatic stress from his military service. Supporters of Grouch see this as a deliberate smear campaign targeting his character instead of addressing the evidence he claims to possess. Grouch insists he has provided classified documents and verifiable details to the Inspector General of the Department of Defense. Some lawmakers have expressed their intent to review these documents and expect to question him inside a SCIF, a secure facility for handling highly classified information. At the same time, Congress has demanded explanations for the government's repeated denials of the program's existence. Rising tension between the public's demand for transparency and the government's silence has fueled speculation about what lies behind Grouch's testimony. For believers, this could be the first crack in the wall of secrecy surrounding UFOs for decades. For skeptics, it will be a decisive test. Can extraordinary claims be matched by evidence that cannot be denied? Karakoto, also known as the Black City, is the ruined fortress of an ancient city in the far western reaches of Inner Mongolia, China. Founded in the year 132, it was once a hub of religious knowledge, art, and trade with merchants from across the globe. Karakoto served as the stronghold of a Tibeto-Burman tribal confederation, controlling a stretch of the Silk Road, linking northern China with Central Asia. For nearly 2 centuries, the city thrived, Everything changed in the 13th century when Genghis arrived and upended the region. He forced the city to send soldiers to bolster the Mongol army. When Karakoto ceased its tribute, Genghis marched in with a force of 180,000. In 1226, he conquered the Black City. Yet, the city did not die immediately. Only its inhabitants perished. Under Mongol rule, Karakoto continued to prosper until the 14th century. Its greatest challenge was that in every direction, there were 40 days' journey of empty desert. It was a city in the middle of nowhere with no natural fresh water. In the 14th century, Ming dynasty forces attacked, cutting off the city's water supply brought by trade caravans. At last, Karakoto collapsed. The city was abandoned, swallowed by desert sands and only rediscovered in the 20th century. In 2007, a Phoenician shipwreck was accidentally discovered off the coast of Malta during a marine remote sensing survey. At the time, researchers only noticed an anomaly on a sonar map, unaware that they were looking at an ancient vessel lying undisturbed on the seafloor dating back to the 7th century B.C. When dive teams were sent down, they found a trove of ceramics and stone objects once traded through the ancient Mediterranean network. Jars, grinding stones, and venerary goods. The remarkable diversity of artifacts made the Phoenician shipwreck an archaeological gold mine. Though the shipwreck was found in 2007, it wasn't until 2014 that an international team of experts could dive to the site and study the remains. Recovering the artifacts proved almost impossible. Not until 2016 did they return, and managed to salvage most of the precious items. To this day, no one knows why the ship sank, where it was headed, or where its crew came from. All we know is that it was a trading vessel sailing the Mediterranean 3,000 years ago, now resting at the bottom of the sea as a silent reminder of the ocean's eternal dangers. In 2016, archaeologists discovered one of Europe's oldest cemeteries on a hilltop near the village of Großfredenwalde, Germany. This cemetery is about 500 years old from the Mesolithic period. Inside, they found 9 sets of human remains, including 5 children under the age of 6 and an infant just 6 months old. At the time, Europe was still dominated by hunter-gatherer tribes. So, finding so many Mesolithic burials in one place is extremely rare. As forensic anthropologist Bettina Junglas noted, the cemetery was used for more than 1,000 years until about 7,000 years ago. Oddly, the graves were dug into hard stony ground with no nearby water source, conditions unsuitable for long-term settlement. Archaeologist Thomas Terberger, who led the excavation, believes this proves the burials were highly intentional, entirely unlike other cemeteries of the same age in Europe. Especially unusual was the skeleton of a man buried upright alongside bone tools and flint knives. Strikingly, first, he was only buried up to his knees with the rest of his body left to decompose before the grave was filled in. Bone analysis suggests he was not a manual laborer, perhaps a craftsman, living at the intersection between hunter-gatherer tribes and Europe's first farmers. This skeleton may provide clues about contact between these two ways of life. But the greatest mystery remains. Why was he buried standing? Experts hope DNA analysis can reveal whether he migrated from present-day Russia, where other upright burials have been found, between 4 and 5,000 years ago. During the Bronze Age, someone carved 2 red deer and 3 smaller 4-legged creatures onto the underside of a capstone at a burial tomb in Kilmartin Glen, Scotland. The tomb was discovered in the 1860s, and was known to contain the ashes of about 10 people along with grinding stones, axes, flint knives, and other grave goods. According to Historic Environment Scotland, yet only recently were the animal carvings noticed when archaeologist and photographer Hamish Fenton spotted them during a visit. What's special is that this is the only archaeological site in Scotland combining animal carvings with concentric cup and ring marks, a type of prehistoric symbol common in the region. Across Scotland, more than 3,000 carved stones feature this style, usually abstract geometric shapes made by pecking the rock surface with stone tools. The presence of both forms of carving raises new questions about their symbolic meaning and the connection between prehistoric art styles. While most British rock art is geometric and rarely depicts animals, these newly discovered carvings are so clear. There's no mistaking them for red deer. The discovery has completely changed how researchers view prehistoric art in Britain, offering a glimpse into the vivid observational skills of artists from thousands of years ago. The kingdom of Gandhara faded into history long ago, existing from the 6th century before the Common Era to the 11th century of the Common Era. The dynasty endured for an astonishing 1,700 years. A remarkable feat in human history. Gandhara's golden age came in the 5th century under the Buddhist Kushan rulers. At that time, the kingdom controlled most of northwestern India, all of present-day Pakistan and a large part of eastern Afghanistan. Gandhara's unique location at the crossroads of East and West created a remarkable blend of Greek and Buddhist culture, especially after Alexander the Great's conquest of northwest India. The city of Tula was an extraordinary religious center sacred to both Hinduism and Buddhism, yet still influenced by the distant Mediterranean world. But this cultural harmony ended in bloodshed when the Huns invaded in 450 of the Common Era, overrunning the entire region. They didn't just take a few cities, they obliterated the kingdom. Like a devastating storm, the Huns, who cared nothing for culture, destroyed everything and erased Gandhara's identity. After 450, the distinctive culture that was Gandhara's soul vanished, and with it, an entire people disappeared from the map of history. In the early 20th century, during excavations near Lake Titicaca in Bolivia, researchers stumbled upon a strange structure. It was a colossal wall built from huge stones, marked with enigmatic symbols, and assembled with astonishing precision. No one expected the wall to stretch for hundreds of miles, winding through jungle and even running deep beneath the lake. Modern archaeologists believe the structure was built by the Tiwanaku civilization more than 1,000 years ago, but its true purpose is still a mystery. Some think it was a primitive defensive barrier, used to divide territory or repel invaders. Others believe it held religious meaning, symbolizing a spiritual boundary, and conspiracy theorists claim the wall is even older, the remains of a lost prehistoric supercivilization. According to them, the Tiwanaku people were simply latecomers, reusing an existing structure. After all, it's hard to believe any ancient society could build something so vast and sophisticated. The stones weigh several tons each, joined without mortar, and some sections lie deep underwater, suggesting the wall may have been built before the lake rose. Some believe the structure could be tens of thousands of years old, dating back to a forgotten era ended by a global flood or a violent ice age. At the Nuremberg trials from late 1945 to October 1946, 11 Nazi war criminals were sentenced to death. 7 others received prison sentences and were sent to Spandau Prison, a facility built in 1876, for were released during the 1950s. In 1966, Albert Schar and Baldur von Schirach were also freed. Only Rudolf Hess remained the former deputy Führer to Adolf Hitler from 1933 to 1941. At 93, Hess died on August 17, 1987. Immediately afterward, Spandau Prison was demolished and replaced by a shopping center. Hess stunned the world by suddenly flying solo to Scotland, hoping to negotiate peace with Britain. The British government, suspecting foul play, detained him for the rest of his life. To this day, no one knows why Hess willingly flew into enemy territory. His death is shrouded in suspicion. Officially ruled a suicide, many believe he was secretly murdered. But at 93 years old, The truth remains hotly debated. When it comes to megalithic structures, Japan truly deserves to be called the Egypt of the East. The country boasts countless burial mounds, ruins, and giant stone sculptures, enough to rival the ancient empires of the Mediterranean. And among them, none is more striking than the enigmatic Masuda no Yunan. This monolith bears no resemblance to traditional stone carvings. It is not a tombstone, not a temple, not a shrine, nor an idol. It is difficult to describe except to say it appears machine-made. Its edges and surfaces are so perfectly cut. It looks like a concrete block cast in a modern factory. But it is certainly not of recent origin. Masuda Noyawan sits deep in the lush forests of Osaka, Nara Prefecture, surrounded by bamboo and ancient trees. The rural Japanese landscape could not be more tranquil. Osaka dates back to around 250 of the Common Era, and is home to many strange stone sculptures. But nothing compares to this rock. No one knows who built it or when it was created. There are no written records. No similar monuments. Could be just a few years old or as many as 15,000 years. Nowhere else in Japan is there anything quite like Masuda no Afun. Seen from a distance, it resembles an overturned concrete ship, though that is clearly not the case. The top of the stone is marked with large square holes, and the entire monolith weighs about 800 tons, equivalent to nearly 200 full-grown elephants. Some suggest the square holes once secured something, but no one knows what. Nor has anyone been able to explain how such a massive stone could ever have been transported to its current position. If you enjoyed these mysterious stories, be sure to share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss our next discoveries. We look forward to seeing you in the next video.